Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of our attendees joining us today for this latest Data Science Central webinar. This is Sean Welch, your host. I'm the host and producer at Data Science Central. I'd like to start our event off today by thanking FutureTech for sponsoring today's event. FutureTech is a longtime supporter of the Data Science Central community, and we are honored to have them sponsoring our event today. Today's webinar is entitled, Who Should Own AI and Data Science Programs in Your Organization? To be presented by FutureTech. And before we begin, I'd like to briefly review the format of today's webinar. Today's event will be 1 hour long. We have 2 presenters who I'll introduce in just a minute. There will be a 10 to 15 minute Q&A following the presentation. And this event is being recorded and will be available on datasciencecentral.com later this afternoon following today's live event. I'd also like to encourage our attendees to provide questions throughout the presentation. We will be reviewing and presenting them on your behalf during the Q&A portion of today's event. Well, I'm very pleased to introduce today's speakers, Dan Cheney with FutureTech and Lenny Eisler with HPI. Dan is the Vice President of Enterprise AI and Data Science Solutions for FutureTech Enterprise, Inc. He oversees all sales, marketing, and technical support for FutureTech's many commercial and public sector clients that are investing in advanced AI, data science workstations, and machine learning initiatives. He also supports FutureTech's strategic partnerships with AI data science leaders like NVIDIA. Prior to joining FutureTech in early 2021, Dan spent the previous 20-plus years with Northrop Grumman, holding multiple senior IT and data science leadership roles. Lenny brings extensive knowledge in high-performance computing, data science, AI, and machine learning to his role as Development Manager, Advanced Computing Solutions, HPI. Lenny plays a key role in supporting the business growth of the Z by HP brand of advanced data science workstations. Thanks for being with us today, Dan and Lenny. We're looking forward to your presentation. In today's Data Science Central webinar, Dan Cheney and Lenny Eisler discuss the key internal challenges that companies face when trying to manage their AI programs and align various stakeholders, business leadership, IT, and data science team members around common objectives and business goals. Dan and Lenny, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you. You can begin as soon as you're ready to go.
Thanks, Sean. This is Dan Cheney, and I appreciate on behalf of FutureTech the opportunity to be with you today. We enjoy our partnership with you, and I'm absolutely thrilled that Lenny Eisler is with us today from HP. Today's conversation is going to be around who should own data science in your organization. You mentioned my Northrop Grumman experience. Most recently, when I was at Northrop Grumman, I was the solution architecture and engineering director for the entire enterprise. And that gave me a unique perspective to see all of the different aspects of a large organization like Northrop Grumman. There were lots of pockets of AI going on. And so the collective opportunities that present themselves when we look at AI, ML, and the whole collective of data science is something that Lindy and I were talking about and realized there's a great disparity sometimes between who actually owns data science. Is it IT? Is it the business? Is it the executives? So we're going to jump into that. And I think that's going to be the meat of the conversation today. I'm looking forward to not only the discussion with Lindy, but also the question and answers at the end. Before we jump into that, however, I would be remiss to not give Lenny a chance to talk a little bit about his background, as well as to take a look at today's sponsoring in part by the Z by HP Data Science Workstations, which are fantastic opportunities for organizations to have world-class modern technology to solve their AI problems. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Lenny.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everybody. My name's Lenny, and I am the Business Development Manager for Data Science, AI, and Machine Learning for HP, specifically Z by HP and our Advanced Compute and Solutions business within HP. Really, my job is to, talk to customers, make partnerships with people like Dan and FutureTech to make sure that we're providing, relevant solutions to all of our data science customers. We see a couple of examples on this slide here. Anything from a mobile laptop all the way up to a big desk side workstation. Z by HP definitely has great data science solutions, and we'll talk a little bit about those a little bit later. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Dan. Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
It's going to be fun. So the topic is data science, right? And who owns it? As we all know, data science as a business enabler is becoming kind of a ubiquitous term. Every industry that I can think of is starting to work with or has already been working with data science, whether they called it business analytics, whether they called it product development, logistics, anybody dealing with IoT and pulling some of the data that comes in from the industrial IoT activities is starting to see the benefits of AI, machine learning, deep learning, all of these terms under the rubric of data science. So the role of data science itself, whatever your organization may call it at a given particular time, is becoming the modern business world's coin of discrimination. And by that, I mean that the organizations that are embracing AI, and the more inclusive they embrace it, the better off they are the ones that are showing discriminators in their relative industries and marketplaces. And that's where we're starting to see the true power of data science as a business enabler. We've looked at it from a business analytics perspective, the product development logistics, or PDL. You've also heard PLM and other references along those lines. Research and development has been using AI for quite some time. Obviously, product design, manufacturing, shipping, and all of those benefits. What we're going to be talking about today is the role of data science across the entire organization. A lot of instances talk about specific or point solutions for AI, how it improved the performance of a manufacturing line or a factory throughput or customer inference activities. But holistically, when we look at a large organization that has multiple moving parts, it becomes an interesting question of who owns, quote unquote, data science, as opposed to having it exist in pockets throughout the organization, because while effective, you don't get the true power of data science until you get that synergy across all of the aspects of a business to bring the true power of data science to bear. So knowing that data science is increasingly critical in multiple areas, especially of an enterprise operation. But we also know, and Lenny, you can tell me and talk about this a little bit more, this often leads to independent groups going, hey, AI is really cool, I'm going to go off and look at it. And they do that with the best of intentions, and well-intentioned they are, but ultimately they end up building a capability in a bit of a silo, right?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with, initial approaches to this have been very decentralized. Right, and there's not an overall or overarching plan to how to use data science within each of these disciplines within a company. And you do see it growing in silos and silos. And as people are successful with it, those silos grow bigger and bigger and bigger. But we definitely see that decentralized nature of data science within the companies.
Right. And so part of today's discussion is going to be recognizing the disparate groups or the decentralized activities that Lenny is talking about, but also making sure that everybody's part of the play. So if you take a look at it, and this may not be exactly true for your organization, but by and large, we found that data science means different things to different people, and it's defined differently throughout the organization. So, for example, the IT department looks at data science as, well, it's traditional IT. It's servers, it's memory, it's storage, it's software that needs to, play well with the hardware. It's accessibility. It's got to be up all the time. Business departments, on the other hand, look at it from a business analytics perspective, and they're just they don't want to know about the hardware. They don't want to know about all the technology. They just want actionable data extracted from a huge pile of information. And they don't always recognize how well they can pull the data together. And that's where the data scientists come in. So the data scientists can work in any of these silos, but too often they work within their own world. And so there's the data science silo. Executive management, and this is I base on a lot of conversations with C-level executives across multiple industries. Executive management is definitely aware of data science from two angles. One, it's a discriminator, it's absolutely a business enabler, and wow, it's expensive to do sometimes, and I'd like to know why I'm spending this much money on data science. What is it, and how do I do the value proposition? I think a lot of executive management understands the power of data science, but they're still getting their arms around how best to implement it in a holistic approach. So when I look at data science, I look at it from an IT perspective, a business department perspective, an executive management perspective. But Those are primary players, but they're not the only game in town. Using a good DevSecOps approach, you have to bring in all the other stakeholders that can play a part, especially in large organizations. That's your compliance group, whether that's ethics, information security, regulatory compliance, legal agreements, legal requirements. If you're working international, there's a whole host of activities around that as well. So when we look at data science from multiple perspectives, it's, that old analogy of looking at an elephant from different angles. Everybody's got a different view. None of those views are incorrect. But if you're going to truly be successful in data science, you have to kind of look at it from all those angles. Right, Lenny?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Just focusing on one of these areas may be of some benefit, but to really take advantage of everything that you can do with data from all of these different disciplines here, it takes a holistic approach. Business departments, like you were saying, have no idea how to get to the data, all of that. All they want is to be able to review, interpret, and communicate what the data is saying, right? And our data scientists are really helping, the business departments do that and working with IT departments to bring everything together. But this holistic approach is definitely, something that makes data science that return on investment that people are really looking for, and then, that holistic approach, right? A lot of times in these silos, people aren't thinking about the ethics or the information security or regulatory or legal things, right? And that's where, a more holistic approach to this really comes into play from a compliance standpoint as well. And, I really like to say that, data science in business is really the progression and expansion of a business analyst, right? And now everywhere, every different realm of the business we can analyze in a different way. And that's where we see, things coming up from business departments. We see people from the IT department now becoming, the data scientist of tomorrow, or part of that team of people that it takes to handle just the sheer amount of data that we have today. And for our executive management, right, the point that I like to make there, Dan, is they're really the ones that need to use data to make a business decision that can make or break a company. And it's super important for that to not be siloed off, right? All of that kind of needs to come in to play together so that they can make those business decisions that positively affect their business.
Absolutely. In fact, there's a couple of different ways. I like this slide for its simplicity, but there's a lot of complexity into it as well. What Lenny and I have talked about so far are all of the different perspectives, from the IT perspective, the business perspective, what have you. There's also, let's talk real world for a second, right? There's a lot of, I'm going to say turf, but it's areas of responsibility. Now, I'm going to say turf in a negative connotation, and I'll walk you through what I mean there. The IT department may look at data scientists going, whoa, hold on. You can't just be going off installing software on your system. That's what we got to do. The reverse of that is, whoa, I'm the IT department. I don't know anything about the 200 libraries that you need. I'm not going to take on that responsibility. So turf versus, am I equipped and do I have the expertise to handle this level of responsibility, right? So the IT department, depending on their perspective, can either look at data science as, this is ours, why are you trying to do it? Or, this isn't mine. I take care of servers and storage and networks and provide you the computation. I'll install, the software, I'll install Word or what have you, but it's up to you to make it work. So knowing what that perspective is from the IT perspective or from the IT department is kind of important. Business, same story, second verse, right? They may look at it as, hold on, if you're going to be doing anything with business data, we've got to be the ones that are in charge of it. Or they could take the other side of it going, we've got all this data, but we don't know how to pull actionable intelligence out of it. Why aren't you doing that for me, the data science group, right? We've all dealt with, I'm sorry, go ahead, Denny. Yeah.
I couldn't agree with that more. I have seen that play out over and over, same story, second verse, right? As you said, I could not agree with that more.
Some of the most tragic stories, a little dramatic, but are the people that come off with great solutions in a silo, but they never bother to talk about, let InfoSec know about it. And again, it's not a turf issue, but I want to make this problem, I've got this problem, I need to solve it. I don't have time to worry about InfoSec. Well, great, now you have the problem solved, but because you didn't bring InfoSec into the conversation early on, you're not going to be able to deploy it because you didn't do this, you didn't do that, it's not secure, it's not containerized, it's whatever your compliance is required from an InfoSec perspective, from a regulatory perspective. So you spend all this time and you come up with a great solution only to watch it die on the vine because you built it in a silo, right? So
I have to start all the way over again.
and I got to tell you, one of that will rip the heart out of a data science team if they have a great solution and they can't get it across the finish line. So part of the reason that Lenny and I are talking through the multiple perspectives is because everybody is right in their view, but no one is collectively 100% right. And that's sometimes a good conversation as well, right? So this chart shows how, and again, I chose the big three here, the IT department, business departments, and executive management around data science. But this chart kind of shows how everybody's area of responsibility and everybody's perspective and everybody's view of the world is actually correct. It's all correct. It's just not complete until you get all the players engaged at once. So when you look at data science, they're thinking about data science as sales, revenue, operational efficiencies. Give me all the analysis I need. I don't need to know about all the bells and whistles and bolts that were required under the IT realm to make it work. I just need the data. The IT department, no. Data science is all about hardware. Give me GPUs, give me storage, give me compute power, make sure my network's big enough. InfoSec and compliance and ethics and legal are shown at the bottom of this as supporting members, but they're vital. They're key, especially when we start looking at working from home and the security implications, making sure data is protected but still available. And all of that flows up into the executive management list of concerns. The executive managements just want to give me the bottom line, give me the short version, give me what I need, and let's move on, right? Here's my problem, go solve the problem. I don't need to know how you're making it, just make the problem work. So all of these players have to come together, and all of them have to work and recognize that they're a vital part of the solution, but they are not in and of themselves a solution. Lenny, did I miss anything?
No, I think you said that very, very well. And I think this is a great way to kind of visualize and to look at this, right? And I really like the compliance and that stuff being the foundation of everything above it, right? It's not the most important thing, like you said, but it is the foundation of everything else. And I really do think that this all kind of plays out as we see customers talking about going through a digital transformation, right? Data analytics and all of that and data science are always part of our customers' plans for this digital transformation. And I think as they start to do that transformation, these things start to play out where, the business team and the business departments, they have their stake in the game. The IT department has their stake. And at the end of the day, the executive management has their stake in the game. So I really like this visual kind of analogy on, how all of this kind of plays. And you're right. All of these are correct individually, but maybe not so much holistically. And I really think this paints a beautiful picture of that.
So everybody that's already working with, an agile or other similar methodology is going to see or DevSecOps is the view that I tend to look at things through, is going to see the opportunities for the most overused word in the English language, synergy, but it really does matter here. It's absolutely the keys to the kingdom, right? If all four of these groups, along with the compliance and InfoSec and the supporting cast, if they're all engaged from the beginning and aware of what's going on, you get such a better solution, and the likelihood that it's actually going to be moved from development through testing into production, is hands above where it would normally be. So when we talk about the great triad here, even though it's four pieces, having the good conversations between IT and business departments with data science involved. Data science can be the broker for those conversations, but really having everybody talking about it at the same time on the same problem. We'll talk a little bit in the next section about scope and scope creep, and I will tell you my internal view and my own perspective on data scientists, right? So before I get to that, the successful enterprise data science, right? It's kind of what we've been talking about. All the stakeholders are working in concert. It's got all of the stakeholders, positive and negative. You can't make it work in a silo. I mean, it'll have limited success, but it won't have expandability, it won't have generalizability, and it won't benefit the organization as a whole. And as long as everybody brings their unique perspectives together and their perspective or their specific talents, things work much better, right? Lenny, I'm sure you and I both have interesting war stories where one of these four tenets didn't quite get followed the whole way through, right?
Yeah, definitely. And when we look at the customers that are really successful in using data science and are getting the return on investment, this is exactly what we see. We see all the stakeholders working in concert, bringing their perspectives, bringing their specific talents all together to produce something on the other side that initially moves their business forward. Right, and it's ethical. It's within their compliance, and when we see companies that are struggling, generally we can point to one of these pieces of the puzzle, or all of the pieces of the puzzle, maybe being in a silo, and that's why some of these projects fail, as you said, even though they're really good. Or they just kind of die on the vine, and it's because not everybody was brought together and in concert moving towards that same goal, kind of to what you said there.
Right.
Completely with that.
In some organizations, I shouldn't say it always dies on the vine. Sometimes it's fully implemented, but it's in a narrow scope. So if you've got a company that has 5 business units and one of them has solved the problem, for that business unit, it's great. The problem is there's an analogous problem over in the other 3 sectors or business units that have that same kind of challenge. And if we're not involving them in the conversation, you get these aha moments so late in the game. So data scientists, from my perspective, are very, very specialized forms of engineers who themselves are very, very specialized forms of problem solvers, right? So the likelihood that something is going to be solved in a silo is almost inherent in the beast, because I've got a problem, I'm going to go work this problem, and I'm so focused on the problem itself that it doesn't occur to me. And it's not through malintent, it's just I'm focused on the problem and I'm not thinking about what does InfoSec have to say, or what does, how do GDPR rules apply, or what do the business folks need. I'm going to give them the solution. So this holistic approach, as Lenny points out, is key to making sure 3 things. One, that the problem is well defined and well understood by everybody involved. Not just the problem, but what are we trying to accomplish, the success criteria. To me, having the problem and what does the solution look like, just give me, I can't do X today, give me a solution that allows me to do X tomorrow. That's the problem statement, and that's the border condition that you have to go solve. And somebody's got to rein that in, right?
And I think, if you do some of this stuff in a silo, you may be solving the wrong problem, right? Or not have a full view of the problem that actually needs to be solved to solve the problem that you saw in the silo. So I think you make a great point there with identifying the problem, and that's where bringing in all the stakeholders may bring up a different way to look at the problem, or a larger problem, right? What you're looking at today in a silo may be a symptom and not really what the problem is itself. Bringing in all the stakeholders may identify what the bigger problem is, so you're not just solving a symptom of the problem itself.
Fantastic. Absolutely, right? Because how often have we seen a problem that if early on we had realized it's similar to this problem over here, a small tweak, a change in the algorithm, adding a field in would have allowed us to solve that problem as well. So that's the give and take. That's the struggle. I said there were 3 things. 1 is scope. 2 is understanding what the problem statement is and what the solution looks like. And 3, making sure everybody's involved in it. One of the challenges that data science groups run into is they start with a specific problem, and then, scope creep or problem creep comes in. And, well, if you can do this, can you also do this? Can you also do this? This is kind of project management 101, but a successful organization for in putting in data science into work is know what the problem is, solve that problem. Now move on to the next problem. Have everybody be part of the conversation so that we can say, oh, wait, hold on, we can solve this problem using this solution if we just tweak it over here. The challenge is protecting the original problem and making sure you stay focused on what is the original problem, solve that, have a win, put it on the board, move on to the next, right? So to do that, you need all of these players.
Yeah, definitely. Then when it's all going correctly, then you get into the circular nature of data science and what I call natural born problem solvers, right, is what I call our data scientists. And as you answer one question, it inevitably brings up another question. And when you can start answering these questions, this is when you can really start moving a business forward and really get into that circular nature where you're just really pumping out the information that's needed to move your business in the direction that it needs to move.
Man, Lenny, you make a great point there. When you get to a point where your data science activities, and again, the coordinated activity, not only is solving a problem, but has that closed loop, that feedback loop that you're talking about, Lenny, in order to continuously improve, and I know that's an overused phrase as well, but continuous improvement of your process and looking at, I solved this, now let's feed it back in so that the next team or the next problem that we have to solve is already aware of what we learned from the last one. That is the sign of an absolutely top-notch, enterprise-level, healthy data science activity. It's holistic, it's multi-department, multi-dimensional, I call that, and it's closed loop insofar as it's solving the problem and immediately taking those lessons and putting them on the next problem. That, to me, is I want to say nerdvana, but that's not quite right. It's nirvana for sure from an executive's perspective. The business gets something out of it. InfoSec gets confidence because, hey, look, they did it right the first time. They're using the same processes and they'll do it the same way again. InfoSec's happy, legal's happy, compliance is happy. And oh, by the way, your data scientists are all just thriving through the problems and the solutions. So when we talk about data science as a big picture, right? Into the game, right? Who owns data science? My view is it doesn't matter who owns it per se, because everybody needs to own it. And that sounds really cheesy, but it's the absolute truth here. What I mean by that is you've got to have everybody involved. Some people aware, some people involved, some people owning it. You can put up your own Gracie charts, but everybody that we have identified needs to be part of the conversation and ideally part of the solution, such that when it's deployed, everybody goes, I did that, right? Because they did. IT did their part, business did their part, whether it was a business analyst, business intelligence officer, whatever your organization calls the individual roles, you've got an opportunity to say, we did this, there's my part to it, right? So as long as everybody's aligned, everybody's supported, everybody's involved, everybody has an equal voice, but also everybody is laser focused on what is the problem we are solving right now. We'll get to the scope creep. We've got a closed loop system. We'll circle back on the other ones. But if we stay focused on a business goal and everybody's involved, everybody's got a role in data science. So the owner, per se, is whoever that needs to be. In some organizations, it's going to be the executive management because they're the ones that have the ability to, herd these cats together, to eliminate any roadblocks, to set priorities, what have you. In other instances in organizations, it's business, right? This is a business to get done. This is a business problem to solve, and they've got the internal organizational strength and structure to bring all of those team players together successfully. Often as not, I do see IT runs a lot of AI activities simply because it kind of felt like a technology thing when it started out. Lenny, I'm not sure if you've seen a similar thing or not, but.
No, you've just explained the last 2 years of my life quite well. But I totally agree with you in the fact that who owns data science is everybody, right? I mentioned that it's a progression and an expansion of what used to be called a business analyst and is still called a business analyst, right? It takes this whole team of people to make sense, number one, of all of the data, but to make sure that we're aligning around the right common business goals and everything. So I think it can be stated better that who owns data science is kind of everybody. I really like that. I really, really like that.
Now, but note the caveat that we had on the previous slide. Everybody owns a part of data science. Nobody owns data science entirely, right? So if you look at it from the ownership perspective, every stakeholder, IT, business, the compliance organizations, executive, everybody has their own area of responsibility, their own strengths, their talents, their weaknesses as well, but everybody owns their part of the pie. They don't own the pie, the entire pie. But beyond just working together, everybody's got a certain area that they are accountable or responsible for, right? So you're not going to ask the IT person to solve an ethics problem or the InfoSec person to solve a business problem. But by having everybody working together as a coordinated and collaborative team, you get the areas of responsibility, the people who are responsible for it. So I mentioned, the RACI charts, or just an accountability chart that says, okay, for this project, IT is taken care of by this group, privacy and data security concerns are this group, this group, this group. Everybody's got their area of expertise, but together is what I mean when I say they, quote unquote, own AI.
Yeah, couldn't be better put, Dan. Could not be better put.
So organizationally, this is all theoretical and high level. I know that everybody out there is going, yeah, but my organization's different. The challenge here is look to see how it's different. In a lot of ways, things that look different are very similar from one instance or organization to the next. Everybody's going to have a business group. Everybody's going to have an IT group. Everybody's going to have an executive management group. There are other variations on that. Some may be research and development. Some may be product development. Some may be manufacturing. Some may be deployment and maintenance. But they all, the message is still the same. No matter what the name on the boxes are, the key players and the key stakeholders have to understand who's responsible for what, but recognize that everybody is responsible for the overall success. And it sounds like this is just generic 101 stuff, but when it comes to data science, I have too often seen fantastic solutions either have limited solution application or no solution application because we missed something along the way. So an organization should absolutely know who owns data science, no question. But the caution is it should not be just one group. It should be a collection of groups and have somebody, in charge of making sure that all the people are available, have the right voice, and are collective contributors to the overall solution. Now, this is all good from a who owns data science perspective. One thing that I didn't put on any of the charts is, there's an underlying assumption throughout all of this that the technology, by the way, just works. Right? That's a huge assumption, as we all know. Data science way too much time, working on, okay, I've got a new version, I got to go do this upgrade, now that library is broken, that's part and parcel to what an effective organization has to do. IT and data science have to work closely together to get data scientists more focused on data science problems and less focused on solving capacity issues and version control issues and what have you. So there's a whole lot of technology that is underlying, and we kind of, through this conversation, have waved our hand and the technology magically works. But as Lenny's last 2 years and all the years prior tell us, it's not always that easy, is it, Lenny?
Yeah, it's very much easier said than done.
So when we talk about the hardware, circling back to the sponsorship, HP data science workstations are some of the best workstations out there, especially using the latest NVIDIA GPUs. Lenny, you do this well, so I'll let you cover this aspect. But it's absolutely key to making sure that you have technology in the hands of experts that just works.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the technology that we're using to help solve these problems for our natural born problem solvers is, definitely something to take a look at. And I think you brought up one of the bigger pain points that when I talk to end users as well as IT departments, the version-itis is what they call that whenever, I update Python and everything broke, or I updated, Keras or something and everything broke from there, and keeping all of the versions and everything correct. And not only do we deliver high performance workstations to meet the demands of advanced analytics using, NVIDIA's wonderful GPUs, but we also have designed a, preloaded data science software stack that helps take care of all of the versioning, the updates, and getting the tools in the hands of our data scientists without making the data scientist the IT department at the same time. I think to one of your earlier points, Dan. So, between our desktops and our notebooks, it's packed with the industry-leading hardware from Intel, NVIDIA, Z by HP, as well as a lot of the software that you need in order to perform your daily functions. And we can kind of look more at some of this software from our ZBook Studio, which is a 4-pound laptop that can have a 16 gig graphics card, 16 gigabyte of VRAM graphics card, and a 4.5-ish pound laptop. That's pretty amazing. Definitely with remote and hybrid work, you can train some very small models prior to deploying them to your larger infrastructure on a small notebook like this. We also and that does have the ability to come preloaded with Ubuntu 20.04, as well as Python, R, and everything that's included in the software stack. Our Z4 G4 desktop, this is our, for workstations in general, our #1 selling workstation, but for data science with the cost effectiveness of it is definitely one of the more popular units that we see. Same type of thing there with Ubuntu and the data science software stack. Brand new, we've just got the ability to do NVIDIA's new Ampere A6000s. So instead of the RTX 8000s, we can do the new Ampere A6000 on this Z4, as well as my favorite unit and my all-time favorite computer that never is more than 3 feet away from me, my Z8 G4 desktop, which is an absolute beast. This thing, we can put dual A6000s in there for 96 gig of VRAM. This slide shows 384 gig of CPU RAM, but this particular machine actually tops out at 3 terabytes of RAM. So we can tackle lots of different problems with that. Great Intel W processors in there, and lots of storage options, as well as lots of networking options that we can use these for. So we have mobile mobile workstations that can be used. We have smaller desk side workstations, the big Z8 workstation that can be used as well. We even have a rack-mounted workstation that you can put right next to the data to, eliminate latency as well as keep things secure. We have remote solutions like our Z Central Remote Boost that'll allow you to take any of our laptops and remote directly into one of these workstations, which presents some very compelling solutions for some of our data scientists. And with that, I will turn it back over to Sean and see what kind of questions we may have.
Well, Dan and Lenny, thanks for that excellent presentation. And we'll get started with today's Q&A session. And I want to thank the audience for their participation. We've had a great many questions that have come in during the presentation, and we'll do our best to get through all of them in the time remaining. And during this Q&A session, I'll leave up this screen with contact information for Dan and Lenny if you'd like to contact them for a copy of the slide deck following today's webinar. All right, let's get started. So the first question is, as your companies both support global Fortune 500 companies, how do you see the role and importance of data scientists evolving? Will data scientists of today be tomorrow's C-suite business leaders?
I would say definitely, in the fact that once we kind of talked about this holistic approach, the circular nature of data science, when we really start getting that going, we're able to answer those questions. We're able to take our business to the next step. So definitely the people that are better at making decisions based off of data and how to kind of put that all together will definitely be the business leaders of tomorrow. Dan, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I totally agree. I was thinking about the question, and I wanted to paraphrase Frank Herbert. They who own the data insights owns the universe, right?
That's a good one.
I think going forward, mastery or the ability to pull intelligence from data and making it actionable, implementing those insights, that's going to be the discriminator for truly successful organizations. And I think that ability absolutely will levitate data science's role into the C-suite. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for providing that additional context. The next question that has come in is, nearly every company is trying to hire data scientists, but some of them don't know how to leverage the work of data scientists. As a job applicant, what things should you look for that will indicate that a company takes data science seriously and is a place where the work of data scientists will be truly valued?
Lenny, you want to take a swing?
Go ahead, Dan.
So, I want to make sure that talking to all of the data scientists out there who are looking at jobs, figure out what you're looking for as well. So it's not always defined by the organization itself. But if I were in the shoes of a data scientist looking at an interview or looking at a prospective employer, I think my first question, because they always have that part in the interview. Well, do you have any questions for us? Why, yes, I do. I think the very first question I would ask is just to give them a chance to tell me about the size of the team and talk a little bit about the department of organization. Listen for, are they looking for a data scientist, or are they looking for more discriminate roles like data scientist, data architect, data engineer, what have you? That just gives you a sense of how far along or how evolved or how complete their data science approach is. And I'm not saying that if they're just looking for a jack of all trades data scientist, that's a bad thing, but you need to listen to what's the level of maturity of their data science, what's the size and maturity of their data science organization, to get a sense of, is that what I want? You may want to start with a small company where you are doing everything from data cleanup and engineering all the way out to the solutions, or you may want to go, you know what, I need to only focus on these specific algorithms or this specific area. My next question would be, give them a chance to talk about the problems. People love to talk about what they're doing, right? If they're passionate about data science and passionate about solving the problems, giving them the chance to talk about what problems are they tackling, what are their tools, what are their approaches. That's a really important part, because as a data scientist, if I'm looking to get hired on, money is great, and we're going to have that conversation. But making the job interesting and challenging, and as Lenny points out, natural-born problem solvers, make sure you're going to have some fun and that you enjoy what they're working on, and you will get a sense of accomplishment and mission. And then, I would be remiss, given today's topic, if I didn't also say, talk about who owns data science. Have this conversation with them to see, is data science a pet project in a corner, or is it, something across the entire organization? And again, listen for what you're interested in. I don't want to make it sound like if data science is something that's, a secret squirrel project off in an isolated lab, that's a bad thing. Some of my most fun problems to solve and most enjoyable activities have been in those very small, narrowly defined, closed off from the world activities, if that's what you're looking for. But if you look for, if you want something that has a little bit more integration and promotion and across the board involvement, that's what you kind of listen to. So I can't answer the question, but I can tell you the three things I would listen for. Size of the team, what problems are they solving, and how do they handle data science in their organization?
Yeah, I would sum that up as fit. How do you fit within this organization, and are you comfortable with where you would fit in? And I think that kind of summarizes what you said there. I completely agree with everything that you said there, and I think it's important for the applicants to look at those things and make sure that you're comfortable with where you fit in to those things. And I think asking those questions at the end, like you said, of the interview, I think those are important, and I think you gave some really good examples of some ways that you could ask to see, if you would be a good fit within that organization.
Lenny, you could have saved us like 7 minutes of my rambling if you just started off with that. That was awesome. Great summary. Great summary. All right, next question.
All right, very, very helpful, gentlemen. The next question that has come in is, what are some things that companies should be doing to hire and retain top data science talent?
I mean, money is always good, right? And we could definitely talk about that. But the more and more I learn about data scientists and this natural born problem solver, the more I would say that making sure they feel like they're adding value. As crazy as that may sound, if they really feel like they're an integral part of solving problems, those are generally the people that I see stay in these organizations for a really long time and maybe become those C-level people that we talked about in the first question that somebody asked there. But, I think money is always good, but I think that sense of purpose is probably going to be one of the more overriding factors. Dan, do you agree with that?
No, solid. At Northrop we called it "you get the mission," right? There was a lot of national defense work, and people embraced that and wanted to be part of that solution. Additionally, I think that if I'm talking to the hiring companies, right? The previous question was to those who are looking for jobs. Now I'm talking to the folks that are offering the jobs. Lenny's absolutely right. Money is a key discriminator, and top talent deserves top money. But top talent, and actually I'd say from middle to top talent, they're also looking not only to make the work engaging and mission focused and purposeful, but keep them challenged. Right? Here's Dan's 10-cent version of what I would tell to every HR department trying to hire data science. If you're going to hire somebody to do data science, get them started immediately. Be very sensitive to startup onboarding delays. That can be a killer to a new employee's morale, and especially in the data science. Making the job a positive one. And I know we all know the generic terms of, people leave companies due to bad managers, but data scientists in particular want to feel involved from the beginning. They need to know the context. They're better equipped to solve it. They're appreciated. They're involved. They're mentored. They're empowered. All of that is actually matters to the data scientists that I'm talking about, and especially the top talent. But perhaps most importantly is clear their roadblocks, right? The tools that they have just need to work. The systems need to be up and running. They should never, if they ever hit a capacity limit, it should be a very rare thing. If they're working from home, give them what they need to do, their jobs from work from home, be flexible. But from an organizational readiness perspective, if you're going to hire somebody, make sure they've got the right tools, the right software, the right hardware, the right access. Get them up and running as quickly as possible and keep that theme going. They shouldn't have to fight the technology to do their jobs, and their job is ultimately powered almost exclusively by the technology.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to switch that question up just a little bit and poke at the hiring part of that just a little bit. And one of the questions that I've been asked by several companies is, where can they find this top talent within data science? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I would like to point out, and I'd be remiss in not mentioning this at all, is there's a community of data scientists called Kaggle. And I've seen a couple of companies get some really good talent just by looking at some of their applicants and what they've been doing in the Kaggle community. And for those of you that aren't aware of that, I call it kind of the esports of data science, right? Where people can go to compete in data science type of things, but also there's a lot of learning and notebooks and teaching of data science and data sets and managing those that are all within there. So that may be another area that you can look for very specific talent, that has a track record, and it's posted online and posted on Kaggle. So I've been asked that question more and more here lately, is where do we find this top talent other than, just throwing things out on the internet? And I would say that would be a great place to look for top talent as well.
Yeah.
That's valuable information. Thank you. Next question has come in is, how do you balance having an alignment of stakeholders for data science versus having too many cooks in a kitchen?
Dan, this is all you, buddy. Just kidding. You have done this before, so tell us how to be successful here.
Clearly, the answer is build a bigger kitchen. Hello, come on. No. So, sorry. That's a great question. And part of the reason I'm laughing is, and Lenny is as well, is because this is probably one of the more recurring questions, right? We've all talked about, the engagement, and now suddenly I have a room full of experts, and no one will listen to the smartest person in the room because every person in the room is the smartest person in the room, right? So, so the question is, how do you balance having the alignment of stakeholders versus too many cooks in the kitchen? That's where, when we were talking about having the areas of responsibilities identified, so that you have a chart. One of the most successful projects I ever saw was they put up on the wall areas of responsibility. So there was the IT area, there was the InfoSec area, there was the business area, there was the customer area, right? Manufacturing was the fifth one. And when someone would ask a question, i.e. being one of the cooks in the kitchen, that was clearly out of their realm, it was a good question, and we had the conversation, and that was great. And the program manager that was running it at the time did a great job of letting the questions flow freely. But as soon as the IT person said, well, no, that's not really how InfoSec works, they'd pull a flag. They'd point to the wall and go, nope, you're in this box. You can ask questions, but you can't answer your own question. So having the areas of responsibility identified and making sure that the people who are in those areas know that they own it helps reduce the friction between having too many cooks in the kitchen. You can have cooks in the kitchen, but this one's going to do sauces, this one's going to do vegetables, this one's going to do, whatever the rest of the menu is. And everybody stays in their lane, but they can still talk across the board. It's tricky, and that's tricky not just with data science, but because data science is in the middle of everybody's area of activity. It can be a little bit challenging, but that mapping of areas of responsibility and accountability and recognizing that everybody's an expert in their sandbox usually helps ease that. Not 100%, but usually.
Thanks, Dan. The next question that has come in is, do you think universities in the U.S. are doing enough to educate students on data science?
I knew this question was going to come up as soon as Lenny said, hey, what about Kaggle? So, Kaggle is a great resource. I think the universities are doing absolutely a top-notch job of trying to keep pace with what has to be one of the fastest developing areas of research and activity that we've seen, even, and I'm going back since the birth of the internet, the rapid deployment and rapid development and incredibly rapid expansion of everywhere that data science plays, AI, ML, all these phrases that are suddenly showing up in every aspect of the world and across industries. I think universities are doing a great job of keeping students educated in the workforce. Are they doing enough? I don't know that anybody can. It's just so fast. But yeah. I do believe that the universities are absolutely key in making sure that we have a workforce of qualified, trained scientists. Self-taught is great, and you can do great things with it. And I don't want to take anybody's desire to learn data science away. There's a lot of online resources as well, but I think universities have a key role to play. And from a hiring perspective, I'm going to look first to the education groups for candidates as at least as much as I am the other resources. Lenny, you've got a little bit more real world or broader perspective on this. So what do you think?
Yeah, the majority of my time here at HP has been covering education, and I can say, are they doing enough? I don't know what enough really means. Are they doing everything that they can? I would say wholeheartedly yes. And part of it is, you kind of touched on this, is this is expanding into every discipline within universities. I've even seen some universities have data science or data analytics as a freshman course, and then every path that you take from there on out has something to do with data science or data analytics or machine learning and how that can be used for even things like literature and stuff like that. And is it enough? I don't know what enough would look like there, but I know that they are doing everything they can to incorporate it and are doing a great job at taking this really fast moving kind of discipline and integrating it into the places where it makes sense. So I would say that they're doing a great job at doing what they can to take advantage of all of the great things that data science can bring to the universities as well as their students.
Absolutely. The only thing I would echo there a little bit is, in my career, I have seen where a new opportunity or new capability would pop up, and universities would sometimes lag behind the cutting edge. And so what they were teaching was maybe a year or two behind what what I call the real world, the corporate front edge. If you think back to things like SD-WAN, SD-WAN came up really, really quickly, and everybody was implementing it, and schools were still teaching, old school subnetting, and not looking at that technology. I don't believe that's the case in data science. At least as far as who's developing the tools, who's making them available, who's giving feedback, I think the universities are playing a key role there. And so they are on the forefront of this technology more than I think I've ever seen. So I agree with Lenny. They're doing everything they can, but wow, what a wild ride this is, just the same.
Yeah, and even not just universities, we work with community colleges that are implementing this type of training into their curriculum, just to kind of further the point. Like, it's not just the universities. We're even seeing, community colleges really embrace all of this great stuff as well. So
Perfect.
All right. So the next question is, what kind of problems do you see come up for your clients when data scientists are operating in a silo and not aligned with IT leaders?
So, I think I touched on this one a little bit earlier. Too often I see great solutions that don't have an immediately applicable value. And so executive goes, wow, we spent a lot of money on that. What can I do with it? What do you mean nothing? And that's a problem. Some of the most clever ideas have suffered because they didn't tie back directly to the business problem at hand or anything outside of their silo. So it's alignment with IT leaders, business leaders, all of that. Great solutions, really clever, elegant solutions that, because they didn't involve compliance from the beginning, there's an absolute gate. That they can't get through because they didn't think about this. They didn't design it that way. And that just rips your heart out when you see a team do a really great job and then get stopped because somebody didn't ask the right question early on.
Yeah, I would say it relates to the most expensive commodity that's out there, and that's time. You can't buy any more of it, and you can't get any of it back. And when you do operate in a silo, you run the risk, and kind of to what you're saying right here, Dan, you run the risk of wasting a lot of time that you can't buy, that you can't get back, and you can't buy more of. And that makes it the most expensive commodity that's out there. So to your point, right, elegant solutions that don't come to fruition, we wasted a whole lot of time. And that's what I would sum up as the biggest problem is you're going to waste valuable time that you can never get back and never get more of.
All right, thank you. So the next question is, I'm sorry, Dan, did you have something to add?
No, I'm looking at the time. This is awesome. Keep going. This is great.
All right, great. So the next question has come in is, where does the business intelligence role fit in?
So I think it varies from organization. I think of business intelligence being somewhere, if I were to put a Venn diagram together, it would be the overlap between the business analytics, the business focus, and the executive executive group. Anybody who's dealing with the strategic direction of the organization from a business perspective, but also from a forward-looking, where do we want to be? Where is our core competency versus our adjacent areas of competency? That, to me, is the sweet spot for business intelligence on the business side, but executives sometimes do it. So I think depending on the way your organization is set up, it will land between one of those two. But absolutely great question, because business intelligence has to be one of those stakeholders as well.
Yep, completely agree. It's gonna lie within one of those two functions.
All right. Well, I think we have time for one more question. Let's see. Who does the Chief Data/Analytics Officer report into?
So I'm going to go.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to go with probably the Executive Management Office, but probably very similar to our last question, where we could kind of put that into both. But I would say that it's probably going to be the Executive Management. Dan, what do you think?
I think so. Again, and I hate being wishy-washy because I feel like I'm not answering the question, but there isn't a one-size-fits-all answer. I think it's definitely going to fall within those two groups. Another opportunity or another possibility might be a chief technology officer or a chief strategy officer, because I think that data science plays a particularly strong role in both of those areas. But I think Lenny's probably closer to the reality of it's either somewhere between business and executives.
All right, great. Well, Dan and Lenny, thank you. Great answers to some very good questions. And for those of you that asked questions that weren't answered today, we will be sending all unanswered questions to Dan, Lenny, and the Future Tech team so that they can follow up with you after today's webinar. I have just a few quick announcements. Please mark your calendars for July 14th, 2021, and our next DSC webinar. Get SAP data dressed for success in Google Cloud, how Breuninger delivers real-time data in an automated fashion. Also, today's taping will be available for on-demand viewing later today and can be found on the homepage of Data Science Central in the Webinar tab located at the top of the page. And past webinars are available on demand at datasciencecentral.com. If you haven't had the opportunity to view them, I encourage you to take a look. They provide very useful insight into a wide variety of topics of interest to our data science community. Well, this brings today's webinar to a close, and I'd like to thank our audience for their attendance and thoughtful questions, and a special thanks again to Future Tech for their sponsorship, as well as to our speakers today, Dan Cheney and Lenny Eisler, for their insight into today's topic. My name is Sean Welch, and I'm very pleased to have been your host for today's event. And I look forward to seeing you all again on July 14th, 2021. Have a great day.